I call Poto Williams.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. It's a pleasure to rise and take a call on this this bill, on the Parole Amendment Bill. Parole is controversial. There's nothing like the stories that appear when someone has been released on parole and has reoffended while in the community. And the community deserves to be protected and have the best in place to ensure that our prisoners, when they are released on parole, don't reoffend. It is controversial. So this is an important bill, sir, as it seeks to address some of those concerns that the community has. One of the things that this bill seeks to address, of course, is the frequency with which the parole reviews are conducted by the Parole Board. Currently, with the requirement of being reviewed no more than 12 months, of course, one of the major concerns is whether the prisoners have had sufficient time with which to engage in the programs of rehabilitation. And that's really important because rehabilitation speaks to preventing the reoffending. And that's really what is at the nub of this, I believe, is our desire to ensure that we protect the public, not only from reoffending, but if we look at it in the wider context, we look to protect victims of serious crime from being harmed in the first place. So the view taken in this bill to extend the review period gives the prisoner the opportunity to work through those rehabilitation programs. And we know that having the current period at 12 months means that sometimes they're only part way through. And we know that programs are only effective when they're completed. So this gives us an opportunity to ensure that those programs are indeed completed and completed effectively. It also looks at those, seeks to address the concerns of victims for those offenders who don't take responsibility for their offending. And the burden that places on the Parole Board, sir, when offenders are appearing often and not with the view that they are not going to accept responsibility, all of the work that sits behind that review process, by moving the reviews to every 2 years rather than annually, that saves us thousands of hours of Parole Board time. And what I understand from the work that the Select Committee did, thousands of actual reviews, which is significant. It does give that offender the opportunity to work through the issues and hopefully work to the point where they are able to take responsibility for their offending and thereby take the full effect of the rehabilitation programs offered to them. There are some benefits that have been expressed about what can be supported for victims. And as far as I can see, the benefits are twofold for victims. Firstly, victims are, particularly victims of crimes where the offence is serious enough for a person to be imprisoned, they can respond in two ways, really, to the offence. They either will want to be engaged in the process, or, like many of my colleagues have already talked about, many of them are really wanting to put the offence behind them. So by extending the period of review, it does give the opportunity for those people who really are re-victimised by the process of annual reviews, the process of being contacted by the department to be notified that the parole is coming up and their intentions around the particular hearing. So it does relieve and mitigate some of the stress for those victims. Secondly, there are those who are wanting to engage in this process, knowing that the review is done after a period of time of being able to engage in programs where there may be some success in terms of accepting responsibility and the victim actually having some peace in this process. So I commend that in that regard. But I will return to the victims of crime a little at the end of my presentation, Sue, because they are the most important component of this work. There is also the aspect that this potentially is a positive incentive for offenders to actually who will consider taking responsibility and then take advantage of the rehabilitation that's offered to them. The bill provides for the alignment of the core milestones. I've heard some other speakers this evening talk about that. So the parole hearings are lined up with the completion of programs, and it provides a better opportunity for a successful rehabilitation. And so what this offers is the opportunity to really look at providing prevention for reoffending. And that sits at the heart of this bill. The recidivism rates have not been great. I'll correct that. Recidivism of offences is an important issue for us, and we want to do everything we can to maximise prisoners from reoffending. So good access to good programs, good access to support, good access to prisoner release programs gives us a very good opportunity to ensure that we do what we can to reduce reoffending in the community, Sue. This bill provides some flexibility around the use of postponement orders, which means that some hearings might be extended as much as to 5 years. But that will only occur when the sentence is of an indeterminate length, such as life imprisonment, or when there is a sentence of 10 years or more. So I want to turn to the victims of crime, who are obviously the most impacted by this. And victims are, as some of my colleagues have already spoken about, are at the heart of this. What can we do, Sir, to prevent not only the reoffending but the offending from occurring in the first place? And there are several bills that we have looked at that provide opportunities to tie that all together. But, Sir, wouldn't it have been a more appropriate process to look at legislation that, rather than tidies up aspects of bills, that actually looks at the issue of prevention of crime in the first place? Some of the things that we'll be discussing over the next few days, Sir, including tomorrow's members' bill, paid parental leave, looks at some of the aspects of lives of children and how we can, by providing a really good start for children in life, prevent what happens later in life, prevent crime, prevent prison rates, prevent poor health outcomes. And we need to actually include that discussion in this debate, Sir, because crime and offending doesn't come from nowhere, it comes from somewhere. And having a great start in life actually provides support around that. So there will be some discussion in the next order on the paper, Sir, too, that looks at tidying up a few of those issues. But what do we do once we have been through our processes? What happens to prisoners when they're actually released back into the community? That is a big issue, I feel. We are getting good rates with better educational achievements of prisoners, but what are they leaving prison to go to? We need to look at employment, we need to look at housing, and there are some other major concerns to ensure that when they are released into the community that they don't continue to reoffend. So, Sir, this bill is in its third reading and we will commend it to the House, and thank you very much for permitting me to take this call.
I call Ian McKelvey.
Thank you,